You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's January the 5th, 2026, and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. Good morning, Rev. Cindy, how you doing?
Good morning, Al. I'm doing pretty fantastic. How about yourself?
Not too bad myself. I can tell you, though, when I look out the window, I'm seeing snow, and the forecast is calling for 10 more centimeters of it.
By the time that gets here, we're supposed to have like plus 10 degrees, so it's going to be all rain.
Oh, really, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's coming, though. It is coming. Rain is in our forecast for this week as well. So,
yeah,
you know exactly what you're feeling. So today, actually, holidays, we're back, we're live. Holidays are over. We've been shut down for, 10 days now, I guess. Other than Christmas Day, we ran a couple of videos, music videos. But other than that, yeah, we took the week off. I didn't even... Other than setting things up for Christmas Day, I never even turned my computer on.
No, we had planned to have a couple of meetings during the time off. We were going to come back and be different, and, well, different will just have to come later in the year.
It's right. It'll come. All right. I see we got some viewers. If you're watching us on YouTube, well, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And other than that, let's go get started on the news for 2026.
Yes, coming to us from International Cannabis Business Conference, the Czech cannabis legalization officially takes effect.
Good stuff. As the clock struck midnight Central European time, a historic public policy change took effect in the Czech Republic. Starting today, adults who are 21 years old or older in Czechia can cultivate up to 3 cannabis plants for recreational purposes. Additionally, adults in the European country can possess up to 100 grams of cannabis in their homes and 25 grams away from their homes. Now they've joined Malta, Luxembourg, and Germany as legalized European nations. Cannabis is also currently legal for adult use in Uruguay, Canada, and South Africa.
Yeah, this was all of January 1st, 2026. Really exciting. Right. Coming to us from the Prague Daily News and its local coverage, they said legal cannabis cultivation will henceforth be permitted only for persons aged 21 and older. In addition, cultivation may take place only in a property owned by the individual or in premises to which they have a legal right to use, such as under a rental agreement. The law does not set requirements for securing the plants or specify particular cultivation methods. Cannabis can be grown indoors, outdoors, or in a greenhouse. They continue to say cultivation of up to 3 cannabis plants with a THC content of over 1% is permitted. Cultivating 4 to 5 plants is considered an administrative offense, while 6 or more plants constitutes a criminal offense.
Sales of the adult use cannabis products with THC content of over 1% will remain prohibited in the Czech Republic for the time being. Cannabis advocates there will continue to push for cultivation associations and regional adult use cannabis commerce pilot trials, such as are allowed in a handful of other European jurisdictions. Mm-hmm. There's some information there. And there you go. So,
wow.
Welcome to the countries of legalization.
Yes. Very exciting.
Yes, exactly.
Second one, write that down on places I want to travel to.
Yes, exactly. Good stuff. Now, from that, we have a different perspective on the other end, on things and how things can change. Next story.
Yeah. Coming to us from the nation, 7,000 plus cannabis shops close as rules tighten. Patients are assured.
Close. It says that Thailand's health minister says that over 7,000 cannabis shops shut down in 2025 as renewals slump, with new licenses limited to 4 legal facility types and patients assured of access. Now, the story says that public health minister Patana Prompat said on Monday that the ministry had been briefed on progress on a draft ministerial regulations governing permits to study, research, export, sell, or possess controlled herbs for commercial purposes after it was approved by the cabinet.
Yeah, he said the existing 2016 ministerial regulation did not reflect the current cannabis landscape, and that a dedicated control mechanism was needed for the export, sale, and processing of cannabis for commercial use in order to protect consumers and reduce impacts on communities. Under the new regulation, he said, it would be made clear that sellers must be legally designated facilities with doctors responsible for prescribing and clearly identified personnel authorized to dispense cannabis to users. He added that Thailand had sufficient medical personnel in the relevant fields to support the licensing system.
Whatever happened to legalization? Remember, they were legal in Thailand.
Yeah.
Now look at what's happened. Shops that still hold a valid license will be able to continue using them. Patana says, however, once the new regulations take effect, any license renewal or new application will have to comply with the new criteria. He says that cannabis-related businesses will have to adapt, and operators will need to consider the process. He adding that the ministry would ensure patients who require cannabis to treat medical conditions would not be left without medicine.
Here's hoping. He said that because dispensing would be carried out by doctors and medical facilities, hospitals nationwide would be able to accommodate demand and had licensed personnel in place. Patients who use cannabis for treatment will certainly not face shortages, he said. According to the latest official figures on cannabis establishments, as of December 28th, 2025, there were 18,433 such businesses nationwide. In 2025, licenses for 8,636 cannabis shops expired, but only 1,339 renewal applications were filed, about 15.5%. A further 7,297 shops did not seek renewal, leaving an estimated 11,136 establishments.
Looking ahead, the ministry said 4,500 licenses are due to expire in 2026, and 5,200 will expire in 2027. Now, the new ministerial regulations would upgrade establishments by limiting eligible premises to those specified by law: medical facilities, pharmacies, herbal product retailers, or the workplace of a traditional healer.
It would also require effective odor and smoke elimination systems to prevent a nuisance or disruption to nearby residents, and stipulate that licensed premises must be located on property the applicant owns or has legal rights to occupy. On shortage and quality standards, the rules require an appropriately sized warehouse space with cannabis stored separately to avoid contamination. Establishments must control temperature and humidity, avoid direct sunlight, and must not place products directly on the floor.
The regulations also raise standards for staff, requiring at least one on-duty worker at all times who has completed training provided by the Department of Thai Traditional and Alternative Medicine to ensure operations meet professional and safety requirements. And during the transition period, existing licenses will remain valid until they expire. However, renewals must immediately follow the new rules once the regulation takes effect. Applications submitted before the regulation comes into force will also be assessed under the new standards. There you go. So Thailand, which at one time was
fully legal.
Fully legal. Their prime minister gave away 1 million seeds. They had all those stores and everything open, and now Everything's shutting down. It's all going to the medical end, which is great that there's the medical access and everything is being guaranteed and all that. But unfortunately, the recreational looks like it's been shut down.
Yeah, I don't see that lasting. Tourism. I mean, it all comes back to money, and as the rest of the world comes on board, I see hopefully, fingers crossed, it coming back to full legalization. There's a lot of tourism money that can be lost there.
Big time. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and the businesses. There's a huge amount of businesses and employment and all that.
All those jobs are gone.
So we've gone from country legalizing, a country that is basically reverting back to almost the old way, and a country that's still deciding. And that's in our next headline. Here we go.
Yeah, coming to us from Marijuana Moment. DOJ could ignore Trump's cannabis rescheduling directive, congressional researchers suggest.
What? In the days since President Donald Trump signed an executive order on cannabis rescheduling this month, there has been some misreporting that the deal was officially done. But as congressional researchers note in the new paper, the reclassification must still be finalized. And there's a chance that the Justice Department could opt to start the process all over again, or even not even complete it at all. What the president did, though, through his executive action, was to direct the Attorney General to expeditiously complete the process of moving cannabis to from Schedule 1 to 3 of the Controlled Substances Act in accordance with a proposed rule initiated under the Biden administration. Short of that sign-off, cannabis still remains Schedule 1 drug.
Yeah. At the time the executive order was issued, the agencies had not taken final action on the proposed rescheduling, and it remains to be seen whether and when they will do so. This is coming from the Congressional Research Services, and they said this in an analysis published, last week. It remains to be seen whether the DOJ will take final action to reschedule cannabis, and if so, when and how the agency will act. So far, the Justice Department has been silent on potential next steps. Attorney General Pam Bondi did not appear at Trump's signing ceremony for the cannabis executive order, and DOJ has not responded to repeated requests for comment from Marijuana Moment.
Now, that's not necessarily indicative of resistance to the president's directive, especially considering the department is dealing with unrelated controversies, such as the disclosure of files associated with Jeffrey Epstein. But without DOJ input on the rescheduling issue since Trump signed the order, questions have arisen as to how the order will be executed and how long the process will take. Now, DOJ could potentially finalize the May 2024 proposed rule or issue a new proposed rule, CRS said in the new report. The president cannot directly change the status of cannabis under federally controlled substances law, but can direct executive agencies to reconsider rescheduling cannabis, as President Trump did in December 2025's executive order. As in
past reports on rescheduling, the independent agency's analysis notes that classification of cannabis can be altered by either the executive branch or Congress. If Congress seeks to change the legal status of cannabis, it has broad authority to do so before or after the DEA makes any final scheduling decision, CRS said, adding that there have been attempts in recent sessions to pass legalization to reschedule or legalize cannabis altogether.
Either reform could raise additional legal questions, however, it said. For example, the Food and Drug Administration currently regulates certain cannabinoids-based prescription drugs. So it's possible that legislators may work to create broader regulatory framework for cannabis. It says that, according to the report, it says that while most recent proposals would relax federal regulation of cannabis, Congress could also seek to impose more stringent controls. The report continues by pointing out to GOP-led bills to continue to prevent cannabis businesses from taking federal tax deductions even if the plant is rescheduled.
Mhm. The tax parity impact of moving cannabis to Schedule 3 is one of the more significant reasons industry stakeholders have been pushing for the incremental reform, even if it doesn't immediately legalize cannabis. Beyond that, a Schedule 3 designation would symbolically recognize the plant's medicinal value and loosen certain research restrictions tied to Schedule 1 drugs. Meanwhile, a coalition of Republican state attorney generals are criticizing Trump's decision to federally reschedule cannabis, saying cannabis is properly classified as a Schedule 1 drug with no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse.
Yeah. Earlier this month, the group of House and Senate Republican lawmakers also sent letters urging Trump not to reschedule cannabis. Trump, however, dismissed those concerns, pointing out that an overwhelming majority of Americans support the reform, that cannabis can help people who are suffering from serious health issues, including his personal friends. There you go.
I think that last line screams volumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Including his
All
friends.
of a sudden, his personal friends need this as a medicine, and now it's being rescheduled.
I know.
We've seen that kind of stuff
before. And as the article says, and it's rightly pointed out there, that even though he said all he did was restart the process. The process doesn't have an end yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. So they may not even get there. Who knows?
Time will tell.
Time will tell. That's right. But we'll keep an eye on that. That's for sure.
We always do.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. All right. Time for us to go one more story before we go to break. And here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from StratCan, micros continued to be the most popular cannabis license type in 2025.
Yep. Micros continue to be the most common type of new federal cannabis license issued in 2025, accounting for nearly 3/4 of all new licenses. The total number of active federal cannabis licenses as of December 31st, 2025 was 920. The majority of these, 485, are micro license holders, while another 400 are standard license holders. Another 16 are nurseries, while 19 are licensed only for medical sales. There are 303 medical licenses in total. You know, Cindy, I can remember when there was like maybe 7 micros, if that, and everybody else was a giant company.
Listen, when I many of us first got into cannabis when there was one licensed producer.
Yeah.
Which was terrible. And then when
plant systems.
Yeah, when I started working in cannabis, there were 27. And I was able to, within 2 years, go through all of them. And they were all I think all of those 27 are now, I don't know, the Canopy Collective or whatever it is. They've bought each other out to the point of there's only a couple of major ones that own all of these little ones. And
right.
I smirked when you read that because, 485 micro license holders, I would say 484 of those are legacy growers who were able to move over and stop having to constantly look over their shoulder. And I'm so happy for them. Yeah. A total of 102 new federal cannabis licenses were issued in 2025. Of these, 76 of those, which is a lot, were micros. 20 were standards and 5 were licensed for medical sales only. And only 1 was a nursery. In 2025, there was a total of 90 license, revokes, 74 listed as revoked on request, and 16 listed as revoked by the minister. Interesting. Additionally, 16 licenses were listed as suspended, 11 of which were removed from the suspension list, and 8 were listed as expired.
Why did the minister revoke them?
That's a really good question. I wish that answer was in here.
Yeah. In 2025, Health Canada also changed the micro license category by increasing cannabis space and processing capacity by a factor of 4. This expanded the maximum micro cultivation area from 200 square meters to 800, and the annual processing capacity for microprocessors from 600 kilograms to 2,400 kilograms, and that's of dried cannabis. So.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Okay, all right. I won't argue. As a result, there were 39 standard license holders that pivoted to a micro cultivation license in 2025, along with one nursery pivoting to a micro cultivation license. There were also 2 micro license holders that transitioned to a standard license in 2025. There you go.
That's just all so interesting, right? Like, because you've got 39 standards that pivoted to
Micros, yeah.
right, and that's just really, really cool. And it's nice to see that. I mean, there were a couple that grew so big they had to transition to standard.
Yeah, and I could see some of them went down because of well, actually, the micro licenses increased because of the numbers went
Giving
up by
them the
4.
ability to move over.
Correct. Yeah. It
Yeah.
made it so it was more appealing because of the fact that they enlarged the numbers for the micros.
Yeah.
So that probably became more appealing to a lot of people. And as you said, a lot of people from the legacy market transitioned over.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's like I have pre-rolls. Like, I mean, all my pre-rolls are from micro growers, and one of the people here that did it, he was a lobster fisherman. The stuff is only grown here in Nova Scotia. It's only sold here in Nova Scotia. I take it everywhere with me when I go. But this particular Seativa is what the name is. I don't know if I can get it to come in. Seativa, so it's Seativa. And this was a lobster fisherman who grew his own cannabis for his own purposes using aquaponics, and he had for years. And he with the laws changing and whatnot, he was able to retire from lobster fishing and open up a micro grow. And when all of these laws changed and he was able to expand a bit, and his stuff is like, he's got old school strains that he's growing, that he's been growing for 50 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good cannabis. He really knows what he's doing.
Good. All right. It's time for us to take a break. But before I take a break, it's time for me to say happy heavenly birthday to my mother. She would have been 93 today.
93 today.
Yeah, she would have been. Yeah.
Well, happy heavenly birthday to you, Al's mom.
She passed away in 2019. All righty. Off we go. Time for us to take that break. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We'll see you in less than 3 minutes.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor? If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And we're back from our commercial break to bring you 4 more news articles. Mind you, 3 of them are going to be like top 10 type stories of events that happened over 2025. And I would suspect that we will have more before you know it. Because every publication is, a lot of them are putting those top 10 or top 25 lists out, and everybody have their own different opinion as far as what the top stories are.
Yes.
Right? So we'll get into those after we get the story done. And
which I think is the funniest story to come out of 2025.
I think it's listed as one of the stories. Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from cannabis.net. Scromating. The latest cannabis scare tactic from Big Pharma's playbook.
Scromating. Yes. Have you scromated yet? No? Well, buckle up, because that's the latest buzzword that the propaganda machine wants you to associate with cannabis. And if you haven't heard of it yet, don't worry, you will. They're making sure of that. Let me guess. You saw a headline in the past few days about this terrifying new condition sweeping the nation. Scromating, the disturbing cannabis-linked condition, increasing worldwide panic and fear. Think of the children. Or maybe you caught it on your local news. Delivered with the special blend of concern and sensationalism that screams, "We need you to be very afraid of this plant."
Oh my God. Welcome to the latest chapter in Big Pharma's never, ever, ever ending quest to keep you terrified of cannabis and reaching for their pills instead. Yeah, this is all started back with the Reefer Madness movie, right? So what is scromating anyway? Let's start with the basics. It's a cutesy portmanteau of screaming and vomiting, because apparently medical conditions need TikTok-friendly branding now. It refers to severe episodes of cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, where people allegedly experience, crazy vomiting so intense they scream in pain.
Sounds horrifying, right? That's the point. But here's what they're not telling you. CHS has been around for over 20 years. It was first documented in the medical literature in 2004. So why the sudden rebrand? Why the new scary buzzword? Why are headlines about scromating suddenly everywhere? Because cannabis hyperemesis syndrome wasn't scaring people enough. It was too clinical, too medical sounding, too easy to research and find out that it's actually quite rare. But scromating, that's visceral. That's terrifying. That's the kind of word that sticks to your mind when you're deciding whether to pick up that joint or those pills.
Oh my. Just read, Cindy, because otherwise you'll you'll babble forever. Whew. I follow Google alerts for keywords like marijuana and cannabis. It's part of my job to track down how the media covers these topics. And over the past few days, I've watched in real time as scromating headlines have flooded my inbox. Multiple outlets all running virtually identical stories, all within days of each other. This isn't organic news coverage. This is a coordinated information campaign. When you see the same story with the same framing, using the same buzzword appearing across multiple news outlets simultaneously, you're not watching journalism, you're watching propaganda. Someone is pushing this narrative, and they're pushing it hard.
The playbook is simple. Create a scary new term, flood the media with stories about it, trigger public panic, and watch as people question whether cannabis is really as safe as they thought. It's the same story that they've used for decades, just like new packaging. A while back, I came across a detailed Reddit post that did what mainstream media refuses to do: actually examine the data around CHS critically. The post titled Cannabis Hymesis Syndrome, The Data Doesn't Add Up, raised some extremely uncomfortable questions about what we're being told versus what the evidence actually shows.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to bring up a past story, Al and I covered a story a number of months back about CHS, and it was a study story. I don't know if you remember this one or not, Al, where they compared it to what was it, neem oil poisoning, so pesticide poisoning, and the two of them were identical. And they also highlighted the fact that CHS wasn't even recognized or seen or heard of until 2004, which is, just a few months after they approved neem oil in cannabis production. I don't know if you remember that or not, but that pops into my head when we're talking about this. And it says, let me share some of the key points that should make every cannabis user and anti-prohibitionist pay attention. The suspicious timeline. Cannabis has been used medicinally and recreationally for over 5,000 years. Yet somehow, and I just said this, CHS wasn't documented anywhere in medical literature before 2004. Then suddenly in 2004, two things happened simultaneously. Neem oil pesticide became popular with cannabis farmers, and the first CHS cases mysteriously appeared.
Think about that for a second. 5,000 years of cannabis use, 0 documented cases of this syndrome. Then neem oil pesticides enter widespread use, and suddenly we have this cannabis-caused condition. The symptoms of CHS are identical to azadirachtin poisoning. It's cynical vomiting, abdominal pain, relief from hot baths, response to antihistamines like Benadryl. This isn't coincidence. This screams cause and effect.
The
common crisis they're hiding, the data on pesticide contamination in legal cannabis markets, is absolutely damning. I think there's like 100 and some odd approved here in Canada.
Yeah, it's crazy. In Washington state, 30 to 40% of concentrates fail pesticide tests. 84% of all products contain pesticide residues. 84. 70% of pesticides transfer directly into the smoke. In California, 25 out of 42 legal cannabis products exceeded pesticide limits. Some products contained 24 different pesticides, and over 250,000 contaminated vapes and pre-rolls currently on shelves. And let me repeat that. 250,000 contaminated products on legal dispensary shelves right now.
Geographic patterns that don't make sense. Countries where neem oil is banned as a pesticide have significant fewer CHS cases despite identical cannabis usage rates. Canada banned neem oil and has dramatically lowered CHS rates than the US. If CHS is caused by cannabis itself, why would banning a specific pesticides reduce cases? Now, the problem isn't that CHS exists, it's how it's being used. He says, let me be absolutely clear. I'm not saying that people are suffering. CHS, or whatever we're calling it, is this week, is very real. For those experiencing it, people are genuinely sick, and that's not something to dismiss or minimize. I know I have a guy I know, a family friend, who they diagnosed him with CHS twice, because he denied it the first time. He said, "No, this can't be happening," and then he got admitted into hospital again.
Yeah, I've helped people work through their CHS, and it was caused by dirty cannabis, like where it was grown or chemicals hadn't been flushed, et cetera, et cetera. And I know people that have gotten sick because they have quote unquote overdosed on cannabis. We call that greening out.
Greening out.
Yeah, and I've had that happen to myself. But
Yeah.
like you green out, pardon me, you purge, and then you're done.
Sometimes I don't even get sick.
It's only happened to me once, and and any time that I thought, oh, like that's too much, I've only ever greened out once, knock on wood. But yeah, I guess if you want to call that scromiting, that might be part of what they're calling scromiting, but like it wasn't painful, it wasn't anything. It was just I ate too much cannabis, and my body said that's enough and got rid of some. That's all.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. The issue is with how this condition is being weaponized. Yeah, I agree. Against cannabis, while the potential real cause, pesticide contamination, is being systematically ignored. The biggest red flag is the timeline. Cases of CHS increased 134 to 175% annually in California between 2009 and 2019. Holy cannoli. That's not a gradual increase. That's an explosion. And it coincides perfectly with the expansion of legal cannabis markets and the increased use of pesticides to meet commercial production demands.
Whether people are being diagnosed more often or whether they're actually being poisoned by pesticides and nobody's connecting the dots remains unclear. But what is clear is that the official narrative, cannabis causes this, end of story, doesn't match the data. Truth is brutally simple. Cannabis hyperemesis syndrome wasn't created enough of public fear. Public heard the term, looked it up, and found it relatively rare, and went about their business. The propaganda wasn't working.
So they needed a rebrand. They needed something visceral, something that would make people's stomachs turn when they heard the word. Scromiting, fix the bill perfectly. It sounds horrible because it is horrible, but they want you to blame the cannabis, not the contamination. Big Pharma needs to create panic around cannabis to protect their market share. Every person who chooses cannabis for pain management, anxiety, insomnia, or any other condition is a person not buying their pills, like me. The pharmaceutical industry loses roughly $10 billion annually in states with legal medical cannabis. That's billion with the B.
So, of course, they're going to fund studies, influence media coverage, and push narratives that make cannabis look dangerous. It's not about public health. It's about protecting profits. Remember a few years back when the cannabis was supposedly making people violent? They tried to push that narrative hard. Cannabis-induced psychosis leading to murder. But it didn't stick because the data didn't support it. And anyone with any actual experience with cannabis knew it was bullshit.
Yeah, we sure did. Before that, it was cannabis is a gateway drug leading to heroin addiction. That didn't work either, so they moved on. Then it was today's cannabis is too potent and would cause widespread mental health crisis. Still waiting on that epidemic.
Now it's scromiting. The latest attempt to terrify people away from the plant that's been safely used for a millennia. When this one fails to generate significant panic, and it will, they'll come up with something else. The tactics change, but the goal remains the same. Keep cannabis illegal or so heavily restricted that Big Pharma maintains control. So here's what should be the real story. We have a massive contamination crisis in legal cannabis markets, and instead of addressing it, we're blaming the plant itself.
If CHS is actually pesticide poisoning, and the evidence strongly suggests it is, at least in like many cases, 99% of them, then we need to do the following. We need to mandate comprehensive pesticide testing for all cannabis products. We need to ban right out the use of neem oil and other problematic pesticides in cannabis cultivation. We need to establish strict contamination limits within real enforcement. We need to fund actual research into the relationship between pesticide exposure and these symptoms. And we need to hold producers and testing labels accountable for contaminated products.
But that would require admitting that the problem isn't cannabis. It's how we're growing it and what we're contaminating it with. And that admission doesn't serve the prohibitionist agenda. Here's the bottom line that really pisses me off about all of this. Even if CHS is exactly what they claim, it is a rare condition caused by heavy cannabis use. It still doesn't justify prohibiting or fear-mongering.
No. You know what else causes horrible side effects in some people? Alcohol, tobacco, peanuts, shellfish, penicillin, literally thousands of things that we allow people to consume because we recognize that adults have the right to make their own choices about their bodies. But somehow, cannabis is different. Somehow, the possibility that some heavy users might develop a treatable condition that may actually be caused by contamination anyway means we need to terrify everyone and maintain strict control over who can access the plant.
God forbid you choose what to put in your own body, like an autonomous human being with sovereignty over your mind and body, especially in the land of the free. Am I right? Now, the bottom line, they say, scromining is propaganda. It's a rebranding of an existing condition, given a new, scary new name, and pushed through coordinated media coverage to create public panic about cannabis. The timing isn't coincidental. It's calculated.
The real story that media won't cover is the massive pesticide contamination crisis in legal cannabis markets. The real story is that symptoms blamed on cannabis itself may actually be caused by poisoning from agricultural chemicals. The real story is that big pharma will do whatever it takes to protect their market share. Remember, that was billions with the B, including funding studies and pushing narratives that demonize a plant that's been safely used for thousands of years. Is CHS real? Yes, people are suffering, and that matters. But the cause may not be what we're being told. And the solution definitely isn't more prohibition and fear-mongering.
If you're experiencing these symptoms, get help. Look into whether you might be consuming contaminated products. Consider switching sources or taking a break. But don't let the propaganda machine convince you that cannabis itself is the villain here. Next time you see a headline about scromining, remember, you're not reading news. You're reading a marketing campaign designed to keep you reaching for pills instead of plants.
Mm-hmm. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and stay free to make your own damn choices about your body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a couple messages that came in during that story. Got one here from Ben Fudge. He says you need to see your seed to weed yourself if you can. Grow your own seed. Yeah. Yeah. And that way you know what you're doing with it. Right. And
me too.
Pop Robert says, I hate pesticides in my wax. Me too. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I don't spray anything. The only thing I spray on my plants is water, and that's when they're clones. Other than that, nothing else. So I don't have that.
I agree with you, buddy. Buddy Weeds 710. It says it's really crazy how so many people are uneducated and are happy to be oblivious to what is going on around them.
Yeah. I know, as it mentioned in the article, people were confused, like scromining, CHS, what? And I was seeing that online. People were saying, well, isn't this the same thing?
Mm.
And yeah, it is a scarier word.
Yeah, it's this pesticide poisoning, wrapped up in a different package.
Yeah, I have to be able to talk to some old, researchers who have looked into all that, as far as ones who have been around for years, talking about its medical benefits, and see what they say on this type of story. So, all right, we got 3 more stories to go. We got 15 minutes. We'll go through them quickly, and what they are is stories, as I mentioned, the year in review stuff. Some of them are, I think, a little bit longer, so we'll get the main points throughout, and then go from there. So, all right.
Sounds good.
So the first one we got, I think you're going to say something.
No, I'm just waiting for you to. There you go.
All right, here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Psychedelic Alpha. 2025 year in review. 10 standout stories in psychedelics.
Yeah. They say I'm just going to skip down. It says, note this top 10 is not based entirely on objective merits like the aggregate readership or virtually of any given article. The majority of our content is paywalled, meaning our non-paywall content naturally has a broader readership and thus might be overrated or overpresented. So they've lifted the paywall, so you can actually read these articles. So there we go. Number 1, enter big pharma. AbbVie acquires Gilgamesh lead in $1.2 billion transaction. And I remember this one. I remember this story because I get a medication come from AbbVie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our most read and shared article of the year was our breaking news story that the large pharmaceutical company AbbVie has entered into an agreement to acquire Gilgamesh Pharmaceuticals lead candidate GM2505, aka bretiskacillin, a serotonergic psychedelic, which is under development for a major depressive disorder. And that deal came after the private company shared positive results from an early phase 2 study of the candidate in the spring. And they broke the news in early May before publishing an in-depth discussion.
Yeah. I'm going to slide down to number 2. It says Norway funds generic ketamine for depression. They say on the very same day that the AbbVie Gilgamesh deal was announced, we shared more breaking news. Norwegian regulators had approved national reimbursements for the off-label use of generic ketamine for treatment-resistant depression.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Okay.
The third one.
Yep.
And this was a sad one. FDA publishes MDMA rejection letter. Last September, the medical advisor, Michael Heitchen, was combing through a data dump from the FDA that included 89 previous unpublished complete response letters, communications sent from the FDA to sponsors notifying them why a new drug application is not approvable in the current state. He was looking for one letter in particular, the CRL agency issued to Lykos Therapeutics in August of 24, that they were likely the first to find the repository, first to break the news and share the document that morning. This is when Rick Doblin was applying to have MDMA rescheduled for medical purposes, and they rejected it.
Rejected it, correct. The View from DC is number 4, and they say many of our readers have shown a keen interest in how changes to the U.S. political and regulatory fabric and org chart might affect psychedelic drug development and the policy reform projects. After a trip to Washington, D.C., where he spoke with regulators, lawmakers, and insiders, our editor, Josh Hardman, shared his thoughts in a dispatch. He says he reported a rather chaotic environment among regulators and advocates, which was not helped by a protracted government shutdown, but he also found a quiet confidence among those who might expect to be in the know that significant milestones are coming for psychedelics.
He ends it with saying, if you cast your mind back to the mood this time last year in the wake of the MDMA rejection, the psychedelic field felt down and out. We sure did, but far from the end of the road for sure. 2026 could finally be the year of psychedelic approvals, plural. I just thought that was a great paragraph. I wanted to throw it in there. Number 5 was the Psychedelic Practitioner's first issue. In October, they published the first issue of a new publication, The Psychedelic Practitioner, which is focused on the evolving practice of psychedelic care. And they spent a half a decade, putting this together. Psychedelic Alpha has built a large audience of individuals and organizations interested and involved in psychedelics, and many of these investors, drug developers, and regulators, but many are still practitioners, therapists, clinicians, and facilitators, and so on. And they published the second issue in December. Pretty exciting.
Inside the Lycos takeover, it says in January, we covered billionaire investor and Elon Musk ally Antonio Gracias bid to take control of Lycos Therapeutics via a $100 million funding round. Then in March, we broke the news that Gracias, who was then busy in an advisory role at the new Department of Global Efficiency, had paired up with an even deeper pocketed individual, Sir Christopher Hone.
Interesting. Yeah. And MAPS founder had hoped, Rick Doblin had hoped Gracias and Hone might bring the company closer to its nonprofit, through its unclear, though it is unclear to what extent this has been the case. Very cool. Number 7, Matt Zorn joins HHS. This past May, we reported that a prominent cannabis and psychedelics focused attorney, Matt Zorn, had assumed the role of Deputy General Counsel in the Department of Health and Human Services. This was somewhat surprising, as Zorn has been a key adversary to the governments of both stripes on drug-related matters. He was a key figure, for example, in a petition to reschedule psilocybin that is now sitting with the HHS.
Number 8, EU's first psilocybin compassionate use program established in Germany. Now, over the summer, we broke the news that Germany had become the first EU country to allow legal access to psilocybin under a compassionate use program for treatment-resistant depression. And Germany is the bloc's largest pharmaceutical maker, with the move suggesting that the more profitable countries might continue exploring access pathways beyond traditional drug-approved paradigms. The country is also seen as quite problematic by its European peers, so the significance of BFARM decision should not be lost.
Number 9, New Mexico's Medical Psilocybin Act passes. It was breaking news when they passed the first legalization-driven Psilocybin Access Act in April 2025. Last spring, they reported on the passage of New Mexico's Medical Psilocybin Act, which became the first psilocybin access pathway to be established via a state legislature as opposed to a popular ballot initiative. It passed the state's Senate 33-4. And House 56-9. Holy cannoli, with bipartisan support in both chambers.
Good. Number 10, Compass accelerates launch timeline for 9-12 by 9 to 12 months. As alluded to above, we reported in November that psilocybin developer Compass Pathways is accelerating its launch timeline by 9 to 12 months following a positive meeting with the FDA and the completion of enrollment in its second large phase 3 trial. The company has also revamped its readout schedule with 9-week data from its second largest phase 3 study, now expected in the first quarter of 2026. It will provide more detailed look at the 6-week data from the first phase 3, as well as week 6 to 26 data from that study through. This won't include granular MADRS time course data. So it'll be a continuation of that, and we'll be looking for that stuff that comes out.
Yeah. They do give a couple of honorable mentions, and then they list 20 interviews from across the field that they had published that they thought would be worth a reread. So if you want to take a look at those, you can head on over to our page, and it's all there.
It's all there. It's this story. You can find it and read through it for yourselves. You want a more in-depth look into that. All right, now we're going to move on to our next top 10 list.
Yeah.
And this one's going to be based on cannabis.
Coming to us from cannabis.net. The top 10 cannabis moments of 2025, according to these people. The year everything changed. Again.
There we go. Number 10. The THC hemp ban. Congress kills a $32 billion industry. What happened? In a move that surprisingly absolutely nobody who's been paying attention, Congress effectively banned intoxicating hemp-derived products by refining hemp in a last-minute addition to the must-spend spending bill. Why does it matter? This wasn't about Delta 8 gummies. This was about Congress taking a thriving $32 billion industry that was generating tax revenue, creating jobs, and operating legally, or at least in legal gray area, and handing it directly to the black market. An estimated 150,000 jobs are on the line, along with hundreds of millions in state tax revenue.
Yeah. Do you just want me to go on to 9 or read the impact?
Yeah, go on to the 9.
Okay, number 9, federal prosecutors announced crackdown on cannabis possession on federal lands. What happened? Federal prosecutor Darren Smith in Montana announced his office would ramp up prosecution of misdemeanor cannabis offenses on federal lands, pursuant to a new Justice Department policy issued in September that most people haven't even seen. It mattered because apparently in a country dealing with fentanyl deaths, human trafficking, and violent crime, the best use of limited federal prosecutorial resources is busting people for having a joint in Yellowstone. This signaled that the Trump administration's DOJ was going full-on drug war on cannabis, despite his campaign rhetoric about reform.
Yeah. Number 8 was Biden's pardons revealed as political theater. What happened? Newly revealed documents show that while Biden was publicly pardoning people with federal cannabis convictions, his DOJ was implementing policies requiring prosecutors to seek higher-up approval before declining to pursue cannabis charges, effectively ensuring prosecution would continue. And it mattered because this exposed Biden's cannabis reform as performative bullshit. He pardoned simple people who were already out of prison. Literally 0 people were freed. I remember that. He got progressive credibility points while his agencies maintained business as usual prohibition.
Number 7, multiple states consider repealing legal cannabis markets. What happened? Several states with existing legal cannabis markets face serious repeal efforts heading into 2026, with well-funded opposition campaigns pushing to roll back legalization entirely. And why it mattered is because this shattered the illusion that cannabis legalization is irreversible progress. Pardon me. Turns out when you combine big pharma money, law enforcement lobbying, and concerned parent groups often funded by those same pharmaceutical companies, you can convince people to recriminalize a plant.
Well, you know, we started the show today talking about Czechoslovakia legalized, and then Thailand, a country that was legal, and then look what happened to it. It lost its recreational land, and that can happen anywhere. Doesn't matter what country it's at. When the government changes, you've accepted their policies, and cannabis recriminalization may be one of those new policies. So
scary.
No good. All righty. Let's see. 7 multiple states. Oh, you did that one. Yeah. Ohio and Massachusetts, I believe, are 2 of the states presently that are looking into that. Oh, look at number 6. The Scromiting propaganda campaign. What happened? A coordinated media blitz introducing Scromiting as a new scary term for cannabis hymesis syndrome. The same article with the same framing appeared across multiple news outlets within days. Classic propaganda playbook. Because cannabis hymesis syndrome wasn't scaring people enough, they said this is why it matters. So they needed a visceral, TikTok-friendly rebrand. Never mind that CHS might actually be pesticide poisoning being blamed on cannabis, so that's extremely rare. The goal was to create panic, undermine support for legalization. TikTok friendly is because they don't like the word cannabis in TikTok and people get banned for it. So Scromiting doesn't include the word cannabis.
It still makes me laugh. Number 5, Singapore doubles down on cannabis execution policy with propaganda. What happened was Singapore's Central Narcotics Bureau published an infographic about medical cannabis that was so packed with cherry-picked data, misleading claims, and deliberate omissions that it deserved its own article. This from a country that executes people for cannabis offenses. And it mattered because it demonstrated how governments that have built entire drug policies on prohibition will manufacture evidence to justify continued brutality. When you're hanging people for possession of a plant, you can't admit you might have been wrong.
And people wonder why do we still need why do we need global marijuana marches?
Yep.
This is why people are still being hung for cannabis. And I could hear it in your voice as you read that headline. Like, holy fuck, yeah. Now, number 4, the Trump administration guts anti-human trafficking programs while ramping up drug war. What happened? Trump administration slashed funding for anti-human trafficking programs by hundreds of millions of dollars, including $88 million for survivor services and $500 million for international programs, while simultaneously ramping up drug war enforcement. Human trafficking prosecutions dropped 40%, while cannabis prosecutions increased. And why it matters is because it exposed the absolute hypocrisy of the protect the children rhetoric used to justify cannabis prohibition. They're defunding programs that actually help trafficking victims while going after people for possessing a plant. The priorities couldn't be clearer. This isn't about safety. It's about control and corporate interests.
The Chevron doctrine dies, potentially killing Schedule 3 rescheduling. What happened? The Supreme Court overturned the Chevron doctrine, which had told courts to defer to federal agencies' interpretations of the ambiguous laws. This threw the entire cannabis rescheduling process into legal chaos, and the DEA's authority to reschedule anything became questionable. While the Chevron ruling wasn't about cannabis specifically, it potentially killed the Schedule 3 rescheduling process by eliminating the legal framework that allowed agencies like the DEA to interpret and apply the Controlled Substance Act. Ironically, this could be a good thing if it forces Congress to actually do its job and legislate instead of letting agencies make policies.
Number 2, federal cannabis policy reaches peak confusion. What happened? By the end of 2025, federal cannabis policy had become so contradictory and confusing that even industry lawyers couldn't keep up. Congress banned hemp THC while cannabis rescheduling sat in limbo. The DOJ wasn't enforcing prohibition in state legal markets, but announced crackdowns on federal lands. The FDA wasn't enforcing regulations on CBD, but threatened to regulate everything under Schedule 3. Why it mattered? Because this level of dysfunction is unsustainable when nobody, not businesses, not consumers, not law enforcement, not even the people making policy, knows what the actual legal or enforceable. The system is broken beyond repair.
Crazy. And number 1, Trump signs executive order for Schedule 3, the big con. What happened? After years of discussion, Trump allegedly signed an executive order moving cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, claiming it as the biggest cannabis reform in history. In reality, that was Biden's proposal that Trump slapped his name on while taking credit. And it mattered because it perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with cannabis reform in the United States. Schedule 3 doesn't legalize cannabis federally. It doesn't stop arrests. It doesn't resolve banking issues. It doesn't allow interstate commerce. What it does is give massive tax break to big cannabis corporations requiring FDA approval for products. Hello, big pharma. And create new federal crimes for dispensaries and growers operating without pharmaceutical grade compliance.
There you go. That is that. Yeah, because the information I've looked up anyways on Schedule 3 is that they have to be created by a pharmaceutical company that has DEA approval. They have to be sold by a pharmacist in a pharmacy. Is that really what people were fighting for all these years? I don't think so. Now, there's some good stuff in it, but
yes.
Yeah, but exactly. All right, I see we're past the hour. You want to do the last story?
It's up to you.
All right, we'll just quickly do the headlines, and if there's any information that we might want to share, we'll do that as we go along.
Sure.
All right. Okay. Here we go. As you said, last story of the day.
Coming to us from Normal. 2025 year in review. Normal's top 10 events in cannabis policy.
We're going to start at the bottom.
Oh,
All right.
all the way down to number 10.
Yeah. Number 10, NIH database now includes over 53,000 cannabis-related studies. Oh, but we need more studies.
We always need more studies. Number 9, cannabis legalization support remains high, but dips among Republicans.
Number 8, studies consistently show cannabis access reduces alcohol consumption.
Does it ever? Number 7, November election outcomes could reshape East Coast cannabis markets.
Number 6, longitudinal trials show cannabis provides sustained benefits for patients.
Yes, they do. Number 5, cannabis arrests continue to decline.
Number 4, Congress approves legislation restricting sale of hemp-derived intoxicants.
Number 3, federal data. Teen cannabis use continues historic decline.
Number 2, GOP lawmakers undermine voter-approved cannabis measures, as we talked about earlier.
And number 1, yet again, President Trump takes executive action to federally reschedule cannabis.
Yeah, there you go. Top stories by those locations and news sources. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I'm sure there will be more of them to come. And I see we got a message from Buddy Weeds. He says, Happy New Year, everyone. Overgrow, overshare, and overcare. We are the people. Respect the plant. All the best in 2026 year of the horse. Be strong.
Be strong. Happy New Year, buddy.
Yeah, Happy New Year, Buddy Weeds. When's the year of the cannabis plant?
Every year?
Every year. Yeah, exactly. All right. Anything else before we say goodbye?
I don't have an ad to share, but the speaker series by the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society continues here in Nova Scotia, and we will be back on January 15th at the Halifax Regional Library in the BMO room. And this month we have, oh my goodness, his last name is going to escape me, and I work with him. He's a nurse speaking on cannabis and palliative, or psychedelics and palliative care. And I'm really excited to hear this one. I will be there hosting it, and it will be online, and we will make sure that we share it.
All right. Sounds good. I'm interested in that one. Psychedelics and seniors. Yeah. All right. That's our news for today. Thanks to our buds at the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop who celebrated the 10th anniversary over the holidays. Limestone City Hydroponics.ca and at ease.ca. In closing, we always like to say thank you for watching. And thank you for tuning in. Other than that, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.